The cosmic threat. The void between stars had never seemed so vast to Admiral Zorix as he stared at the holographic display aboard the luminary flagship of the Galactic Concord. Another system had gone dark, the 12th this cycle, not with explosions or desperate transmissions cutting to silence, but with a gradual dimming, as if reality itself was being unwritten from existence. The void cascade has accelerated, reported Science Director Ilara, her translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of distress. Projections indicate the Andromeda arm will be completely consumed within 6 stellar cycles. The Galactic Concord chamber fell silent. 17 species represented, each considered immortal by lesser civilizations. The quantum eternals with their ability to exist simultaneously across multiple timelines. The void architects who had once reshaped an entire nebula into a computational array. The celestial shepherds who tended to dying stars, extending their lifespans by millions of years. Yet none could stop the void cascade. The myriad collective's dimensional barriers failed yesterday, said Counselor Thex, the crystalline being's voice resonating like struck glass. Their entire existence has been reduced to mathematical abstractions. No energy signatures remain. The myriad had been the most advanced of them all, entities that had transcended physical form billions of years ago. If they couldn't resist the cascade, we've exhausted every conventional solution, Admiral Zorix said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of extreme stress among the Vander. The void cascade isn't just consuming matter and energy, it's erasing causality itself. Elder Office of the Void Architects floated forward, her body a swirl of dark matter and stellar fragments. Our ancestors foresaw this possibility. The primordial records speak of entities beyond our understanding, wombs in reality that feed on ordered systems. They called them entropy incarnate. And yet your ancestors left no solution, asked Thex. They did, Office replied, her voice barely above a whisper, but it was considered too dangerous to contemplate. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. In a civilization spanning millions of years, few subjects remained taboo. Office's form rippled with reluctance. The dimensional archives on Proxima VI contain references to a quarantine species, one deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous to join the galactic community. The humans, said Admiral Zorix, the word hanging in the air like a forbidden incantation. Silence fell over the assembly. Several counselors visibly recoiled. Impossible, declared High Sentinel Axios of the Quantum Eternals. The Sol system was sealed behind a causality barrier 8,000 years ago for good reason. Those creatures solve problems by creating worse ones. They were chaotic, agreed Elder Office, but they understood entropy in ways we never could. Science Director Ilara's skin flashed with rapid calculations. The humans' neural architecture allowed for genuine randomness in their thinking patterns. They could conceive solutions that defied logical progression. They were dangerous, insisted Axios. They advanced from primitive flight to dimensional manipulation in less than 1,000 years. No species should evolve that quickly. That's exactly why we need them, Admiral Zorix said, standing tall. The void cascade operates on perfect mathematical certainty, consuming reality through predictable patterns. We need unpredictability. You would unleash them after all this time? Asked Counselor Thex. What if they seek revenge for their containment? Zorix gestured to the holographic display where another star system was beginning to fade. What choice do we have? We're witnessing the end of everything. If there's even a chance the humans can help us understand this threat, we must take it. The debate raged for days, as was customary in the Concord. Meanwhile, 3 more systems faded from existence. Finally, a consensus was reached, not out of agreement, but desperation. The mission to breach the Sol barrier would be led by Admiral Zorix himself, accompanied by a delegation representing the Concord's founding species. They selected the Luminary, their most advanced vessel, capable of manipulating space-time itself for the journey. As they approached the edge of known space, the barrier surrounding Sol's system became visible, not as a physical wall, but as a distortion in reality itself. Light bent strangely around it. Sensor readings became contradictory, then nonsensical. "Remarkable," murmured Science Director Ilara. "After 8 millennia, the quantum isolation field remains intact." "How do we penetrate it?" asked Zorex. "We don't," she replied. "We request entry." Under Ilara's guidance, the luminary transmitted a signal using quantum entanglement, the only form of communication that could theoretically cross the barrier. The message was simple, a mathematical proof of the void cascade's existence and a request for assistance. For 7 days, there was nothing. The delegation grew restless. Some advocated returning to Concord space to implement last resort measures, sacrificing entire regions of space to slow the cascade's advance. Then, without warning, the barrier rippled. A small aperture formed, just large enough for the luminary to pass through. "They're inviting us in," whispered Ilara, her skin pulsing with excitement and fear. "Or trapping us," countered High Sentinel Axios. "Proceed," ordered Zorex. "Maintain passive scanning only." The luminary slipped through the opening, which sealed immediately behind them. Beyond lay the Sol system, unchanged in physical structure since ancient records, a yellow star with 8 planets. But the similarity ended there. The inner planets had been transformed. Venus, once a toxic inferno, now gleamed with cities suspended in its upper atmosphere. Mars showed massive terraforming structures and orbital rings. Mercury had been partially disassembled, its materials feeding massive construction projects throughout the system. But it was Earth, humanity's birthplace, that commanded attention. The planet was enveloped in a gossamer network of structures that defied conventional architecture. They seemed to shift and morph as the luminary approached, as if responding to observation itself. "Energy readings are impossible," Ilara reported, her voice trembling. "They're manipulating fundamental forces with precision I've never seen." "We're being scanned," announced the sensor operator. "Our shielding is ineffective." A transmission cut through their communication system without effort. "Galactic Concord vessel luminary," came a voice, speaking perfect standard despite the language having evolved for millennia after human containment. "Your arrival was predicted. The void cascade's pattern has been observed from within our sphere." Admiral Zorex stepped forward. "I am Admiral Zorex of the Galactic Concord. We come seeking assistance against an existential threat." A pause. Then, permission granted for diplomatic delegation to transfer to Nexus Terra. Coordinates are being transmitted. The coordinates led to an orbital platform above Earth, a structure that seemed to exist partially in multiple dimensions, its geometry shifting subtly as they approached. A delegation of 6, including Zorex and Ilara, transported to the station. They materialized in a vast chamber whose walls displayed real-time images of the galaxy, including, disturbingly, perfect visualizations of the void cascade's progress. 3 figures awaited them. They appeared human, but there was something indefinably different about them. Their movements were too precise, their attention too focused. "Welcome, representatives of the Concord," said the central figure, a woman with dark skin and silver eyes. "I am Director Imani Reed of the Terran Collective. We've been expecting your arrival for some time." "You knew about the cascade?" asked Zorex. "We've been monitoring galactic events despite our isolation," Reed replied. "The quantum barrier was designed to keep you out, not to blind us." "Then you understand why we've come," said Ilara. "You need our help against something your civilizations cannot comprehend," Reed stated matter-of-factly. "Something that operates outside your conceptual frameworks." "The void cascade is consuming entire star systems," said Zorex. "It's not just destroying matter. It's erasing the very fabric of reality." Reed nodded. "What you call the void cascade, we call a phase boundary collapse. It's a natural consequence of a universe reaching informational saturation. Natural. Ilara's skin flashed with shock patterns. There's nothing natural about reality being unmade. On the contrary, said one of the other humans, an older man with augmented eyes that shifted color continuously. It's the universe's way of resetting localized entropy. Your civilizations have been manipulating cosmic forces for millions of years without understanding the consequences. Can you help us stop it? Asked Zorex directly. Director Reed's expression softened slightly. Admiral, we cannot stop it because it shouldn't be stopped. But we can redirect it. Redirect a cosmic annihilation event. Even Axios couldn't hide his disbelief. The cascade follows patterns, explained Reed. Very complex ones, but patterns nonetheless. We've developed technologies that can manipulate those patterns, guide them toward uninhabited regions of space. That's impossible, said Axios. Our best computational models are limited by your understanding of causality, interrupted Reed. During our isolation, we've explored avenues of thought forbidden by Concord doctrine. We've learned to think in ways your civilizations deemed too dangerous. What would you require from us? Asked Zorex, cutting through the tension. Reed's silver eyes fixed on him. Access to your dimensional stabilizers throughout the galaxy. We'll need to create a network of reality anchors at precise coordinates. And in return? Asked Thex cautiously. The end of our quarantine, Reed said simply. Humanity wishes to rejoin the galactic community. The delegation exchanged troubled glances. The stabilizers were the backbone of the Concord's infrastructure. Giving humans access would be an unprecedented security risk. We need time to consider, began Zorex. You don't have time. Reed's voice was gentle but firm. 3 more systems will fade by the time you return to Concord space. The phase boundary is accelerating. As if to emphasize her point, one of the galactic displays flickered as another star system dimmed into nothingness. We'll need guarantees, said Zorex. Assurances that humanity won't. Won't what, Admiral? Reed asked, a hint of something ancient and weary entering her voice. Won't disrupt your carefully ordered societies. Won't introduce uncomfortable ideas. That's precisely why you locked us away. Our chaos frightened you. Your chaos nearly collapsed the quantum substrate of the Andromeda Arm during the Insight Crisis, countered Axios. And in doing so, we discovered principles of reality your civilizations still haven't grasped, said Reed. The choice is simple. Accept our help on our terms, or face extinction. The delegation returned to the luminary to deliberate, but the decision had already been made the moment they breached the soul barrier. The Concord needed humanity, despite the risks. 3 days later, Admiral Zorex stood before the full Galactic Concord Assembly, the human Director Reed at his side. A murmur of disbelief spread through the chamber as he presented the terms of humanity's assistance. We have no choice, he concluded. The humans understand the void cascade in ways we cannot. They believe they can redirect it. And what if they're wrong? Asked an elder of the celestial shepherds. What if giving them access to our stabilizer network only hastens our end? Director Reed stepped forward, her presence commanding the attention of the assembly. 8,000 years ago, you feared our potential, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. You were right to be afraid. A tense silence fell over the gathering. In our isolation, we've evolved beyond what you could imagine, Reed continued. We've broken through barriers of thought your civilizations established as immutable laws. We don't think like you. We don't create like you. And that is exactly why you need us now. She gestured, and a holographic model of the galaxy appeared in the center of the chamber, with the void cascade's progress highlighted in pulsing red. The phase boundary collapse follows mathematical principles that seem chaotic to you, but are perfectly clear to us. We can redirect it, but only if we work quickly. Elder offers floated forward. The old records say humans were once driven by emotion as much as logic. Is this still true? Reed's silver eyes fixed on the swirling form of the Void Architect. It is our greatest strength, she said. We feel the universe in ways you cannot. That's how we'll save it. The human solution. The integration of human specialists into the Concorde's defense network was not without incident. Their methods were unorthodox, their reasoning often incomprehensible to even the most advanced AI systems. They worked on intuition as much as calculation, following paths of logic that seemed to bend back on themselves in impossible ways. Admiral Zorex watched as a human engineer named Kai Chen reconfigured a dimensional stabilizer on Proxima Station. The man's movements were precise yet strangely fluid, as if he were dancing with the technology rather than simply operating it. "Your people find our methods disturbing," Chen observed without looking up from his work. "Your methods defy established protocols," replied Zorex. Chen smiled. "That's why they'll work. The Cascade thrives on predictability. It consumes ordered systems because it can anticipate their responses. We're introducing uncertainty into the equation." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as human teams accessed the network of stabilizers, massive structures that maintained the integrity of space-time in regions where it had been weakened by eons of advanced civilizations' manipulation. On the Luminary, now serving as the command center for the operation, Director Reed worked alongside Science Director Ilara, their contrasting approaches creating an unusual synergy. "The dimensional math doesn't support this configuration," Ilara said, her skin flashing with calculation patterns as she reviewed Reed's proposed network adjustments. "It doesn't support it under standard models," Reed corrected, "but reality isn't bound by our models of it." "That statement contradicts 8 million years of empirical observation," countered Ilara. Reed's silver eyes gleamed. "Precisely why your civilizations never saw the Cascade coming. You built your understanding on observation of stable systems, never questioning whether the stability itself was temporary." Reports came in from across the galaxy. Stabilizers reconfigured to Reed's specifications were exhibiting strange behavior. Energy patterns fluctuated in ways that should have been impossible. Quantum fields bent in configurations that violated established laws. "You're destabilizing the very network designed to protect space-time integrity," accused High Sentinel Axios during an emergency council meeting. "These readings suggest imminent critical failure." "They suggest transformation," corrected Reed. "We're not fighting the Cascade. We're communicating with it." Communicating with a cosmic destruction event. Axios' disbelief was palpable. "The phase boundary isn't destruction. It's evolution," Reed explained. "The universe uses these events to prevent entropy lock, a state where causality becomes so rigid that new possibilities cannot emerge." "That's theoretical at best," said Elder Offris. "No evidence supports." "No evidence you've been willing to see," interrupted Reed. "Your civilizations have been suppressing cosmic variability for millions of years, forcing reality into patterns you find comprehensible. The universe is pushing back." The debate might have continued indefinitely had the Cascade not accelerated dramatically, consuming 3 major systems in rapid succession. The nearest was barely 2 light-years from Concorde Prime. "We're out of time," declared Admiral Zorex. "Implement the human solution immediately." Despite continuing objections, the order was given. Throughout the galaxy, reconfigured stabilizers activated simultaneously. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Reality itself seemed to shudder. On monitoring stations across the Concorde, sensors registered impossible readings. Quantum fields inverted. Probability curves flattened. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, it seemed the humans had indeed hastened the end. Then something extraordinary happened. The Void Cascade's advance halted. The red pulse on galactic displays paused, then began to change direction, flowing along new pathways created by the reconfigured stabilizer network. "It's working," whispered Ilara, her skin pulsing with astonishment. "They're redirecting it." On the command deck of the Luminary, Director Reed stood motionless, her silver eyes reflecting the holographic displays as the Cascade followed the path they had created, away from populated systems and toward the vast empty regions between galactic arms. "What exactly are we witnessing?" asked Admiral Zorex, standing beside her. "The universe rebalancing itself," Reed replied. "The cascade isn't destruction, it's transformation. We've given it a path of lesser resistance." For 3 days, the Concorde watched in amazement as the void cascade followed the human-designed path, consuming empty space rather than inhabited systems. Where it passed, strange phenomena were observed, space-time exhibiting new properties, energy patterns never before recorded. "It's creating," murmured Elder Offris as she studied the readings. "Not destroying, creating something new." On the 7th day, the cascade reached a massive void between galactic arms and began to dissipate, its energy spreading out in fractal patterns across the emptiness. Where it touched, new forms of matter began to coalesce, structures that defied conventional physics. "Phase transition complete," announced Director Reed. "The boundary has stabilized." Gradually, the emergency response teams stood down. Concorde scientists descended upon the affected regions, studying phenomena that had never been observed before. The humans worked alongside them, translating observations into new theoretical frameworks. 1 month later, the Galactic Concorde convened to address the future, their own and humanity's. "The quarantine barrier around Sol system has been dismantled," announced Admiral Zorex to the assembled delegates. As agreed, humanity is formally reinstated into the galactic community. Director Reed stood before the assembly, now officially representing the Terran Collective as its first delegate in 8,000 years. "We thank the Concorde for honoring our agreement," she said. "The phase boundary has been redirected, but it will return. The universe requires periodic renewal." "And when it returns?" asked Counselor Thex. "We will be ready," Reed replied. "But lasting solutions will require lasting change. Your civilizations must learn to accommodate uncertainty, to see chaos not as a threat, but as a necessary component of cosmic health." "You expect us to abandon millions of years of stable governance?" asked High Sentinel Exios incredulously. "We expect you to evolve," Reed said simply, "as we have evolved, as the universe itself evolves." The debate that followed lasted for weeks. Some called for renewed quarantine of humanity, arguing that the crisis had passed and the risk remained. Others advocated for deeper integration, recognizing that the Concorde had grown stagnant in its certainty. In the end, a compromise was reached. Humanity would rejoin the galactic community, but with restrictions. Human representatives would serve as advisors on matters of cosmic stability. Human scientists would work alongside Concorde researchers, but their more radical experiments would be confined to designated regions. As the new protocols were established, Admiral Zorex found Director Reed on an observation deck of Concorde Prime, gazing out at the transformed region of space where the cascade had dissipated. "Your people saved us," he acknowledged, "but many still fear what your presence means for our future." Reed smiled. "They're right to be concerned. Change is always frightening, especially for those who've known only stability." "What is it like?" asked Zorex after a moment. "Thinking as you do, seeing patterns we cannot see." Reed considered the question carefully. "Imagine experiencing time not as a line but as an ocean, waves and currents flowing in all directions simultaneously. Imagine understanding causality not as a chain but as a web, where effect can sometimes precede cause." "That sounds chaotic," admitted Zorex. "Chaos and order are two sides of the same cosmic process," said Reed. "Your civilization's mastered order. Mine embraced chaos. Neither approach is complete on its own." She turned to face him, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. "That's why the universe brought us back together. Not because humans have all the answers, but because we ask different questions." Below them, on the surface of Concorde Prime, humans walked among the elder species for the first time in millennia. Uncomfortable exchanges gave way to cautious collaboration. Ideas that had been forbidden for eons were cautiously re-examined. "Will it be enough?" asked Zorex. "When the cascade returns, "That depends," said Reed, "on whether your people can learn to be a little more human, and mine can learn from your ancient wisdom." She gestured to the transformed space. "The universe doesn't just need guardians, Admiral. It needs pioneers. It needs those who maintain and those who disrupt. It needs order and chaos in balance." As night fell over Concord Prime, lights from 1,000 different civilizations glittered across its surface. Among them now were the lights of human habitations, bright, irregular, and pulsing with possibility. The species that once terrified gods had returned, and the universe, in all its infinite complexity, adjusted its course accordingly.